Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And it is Monday. That means it's time to take an advanced look at a new Marvel Omnibus. Today we're going to be looking at Daredevil by Ed Brubaker and Michael Lark Omnibus Volume 2, coming out on March 26th or 27th, depending on where you get your books. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, before going any further, I'd like to thank David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advance copy of this omnibus. As mentioned earlier, this omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on March 26th or 27th, depending on where you get your books. And what we're looking at here is the direct market cover. This is the one that's supplied by Joe Quesada. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover, and that one is supplied by Marko Jurjevic. So everything else underneath the dust jacket is the same. Now, let's take a closer look at this cover right here. So we have the Marvel logo, Daredevil, and in the foreground is, of course, the man without fear himself, and Brubaker Lark Omnibus down there, and then the spine of the book. Marvel Omnibus, Daredevil, Man Without Fear, Brubaker Lark Omnibus, and Volume 2. And then the back of the book. As I mentioned, this was previously released, and that's what we're looking at here on the left-hand side. This is my old printing here, my original printing, and then we'll look at the differences in the spine. And right away, one thing they changed is, of course, the logo right here. It's a little bit smaller, Brubaker Lark Omnibus, and Volume 2, and then the backs of the books. So, before I take the dust jacket off, I do want to show you what it looks like on the shelf, or where it will go in your reading order of Daredevil. Keep in mind, that's my original first printing of Volume 1, and the new printing of Volume 1 will match this one. But now that you know where it goes in the reading order in omnibus format, let's look underneath the dust jacket here. Let's look at the flaps first. A little bit about the creators on the right, and a little bit about the run here on the left-hand side. And I know that looks different underneath here because that was the old school way. And this is the book that you all voted for. So it's a good thing that you all turned out for the reprint poll we do every year. And you have this image that wraps around the entire book, while the original printing has this old, like, Marvel Masterworks type of finish to it, the faux leather look to it. Now, we are going to crack this book open and talk a little bit about the stories. I'll let you know before I talk about any kind of spoilers. Talk about the content and check out the artwork. And also look at the extras. I'll put the timestamps in the description of the video, and of course do a comparison to the original printing. Alright, let's go ahead and crack the book open. You have your red end sheets here, very similar to the original printing. Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, title right there. And then, of course, your credits with Ed Brubaker leading the charge. However, Greg Rucka wrote the first story arc in here along with Ed Brubaker. Love both of them collaborating just like they did in the Gotham Central book. Penciled by Michael Lark, of course, who does the majority of the book. Paul Azaceta, Clay Mann, and David Aja doing some of the other artwork. Your inkers like Stefano Guadino and Paul Azaceta and Joan Lucas. And you have additional art in issue 500 like Klaus Janson, Chris Samney, and Paul Azaceta. Colorist Matt Hollingworth putting it all together with Jose Villarrubia doing issue 116. Then you have Leandro Fernandez penciling the Daredevil Annual 1, and then Blood of Tarantula is Chris Samney. So what is collected in here before I start talking about the story? So collected in here is Daredevil 106 to 119, and then when it reverted back to issue number 500. So it goes 119 and 500. Then Daredevil annual number 1, and the follow-up to that story, Daredevil Blood of Tarantula. The book has 472 pages and retails for $75. So this is one of the smallest omnis. That is correct. As a matter of fact, it's a little bit smaller than the first book, volume number 1. Now, I am going to be talking about spoilers for the previous volume, so please go and read that. And just know that this takes place and leads into Shadowland before you read that omnibus when it's printed later this year, or reprinted rather. So what exactly happened in the previous volume that sets up this particular volume? Well, Matt Murdock, Daredevil, in the previous volume, had a relationship with this young lady named Mila, who was introduced before Brubaker's run. And she was being manipulated, not just her, but a lot of people, by the character of Mr. Fear. And I don't want to go deep into how she was manipulated or how deep their relationship was, but just know that Matt Murdock was really close to this character named Mila. Really close. And when Mr. Fear, a character from Daredevil's past, came back into the picture and manipulated her in a psychedelic kind of way, she ended up being put into a mental hospital. And Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is now by himself again. And if you know the character of Matt Murdock and Daredevil, you know that he doesn't really have any luck when it comes to women. And a lot of it, probably 90% of it, is his fault. Whether it's because he wears the red costume, or whether it's because he's Matt Murdock and just the way that he is. So he is in a state of depression, which we usually find Matt Murdock in. This is after he's been released from prison, but a lot of those stories are going to come back in this. Foggy Nelson and him are not seeing eye to eye just because of the way that Matt Murdock is reacting to the things that happened in the previous volume. And, of course, he's letting loose on some of the criminals that are going to be found through this book, especially at the very beginning, because he doesn't feel like he's in control of the things happening. He's not taking well to what happened with this character. So the first storyline is the sympathy for the devil. It's the one that's drawn by Azuqueta. And then we have Michael Lark coming back for the next story arc, and this is the Cruel and Unusual, which brings back the character of Dakota North, who was reintroduced in the pages of Marvel Comics in Brubaker's run, but she's a character that has been around since the 80s. She's a character that was introduced in her own series in, 1986, I think? It was a story that was written by Martha Thomas's. Tony Samas was the artist in it. And just a character that appears from time to time in Marvel Comics. So it was really nice use of her. And this is her storyline right here, where she's trying to get Matt Murdock to be a lawyer for this guy that's Mr. Donovan here, that's been accused of murdering kids. And it is a really dark and powerful read, how he is saying that he's guilty, but Matt doesn't believe him, because remember, Matt, even though he doesn't have the powers or the use of his eyes, he has heightened senses, so he can hear his heartbeat, so he thinks that he's innocent. But is he really innocent? And if he's claiming to be guilty, why is he claiming to be guilty? And that storyline gets wrapped up, and then we go to the first annual, which is the return of the Tarantula. And the Tarantula was a character that was used in the first volume, but it was, Spider-Man villain, or the Black Tarantula, not the original Tarantula. But he comes into play into these two storylines and will be a big supporting character for the rest of the omnibus. Now, we get into the third story arc after that, and that is the introduction of this character named Lady Bullseye. And Lady Bullseye is coming after Matt Murdock with the Hand. So her and the Hand have a big role to play in the final story arc that ends with issue 500. So this is the beginning of the third and final act, where she got inspiration to become Lady Bullseye, and just how much of a deadly warrior she is. And can I just say, some of the artwork by Michael Lark, wow. That's all I will say. So Matt and Dakota are still together, and the Hand is coming after him. One of my favorite characters appears through these pages. This guy right here, Master Izo, and he delivers one of my favorite lines. And you, Matt Murdock, are going to help me destroy the Hand. At least after you find me a beer. And he's that type of character. There's a couple of other lines that I really enjoyed by him. Rereading this was a lot of fun. I forgot how much I enjoyed Brubaker's Daredevil. And we also have the Return of the King storyline, which wraps up Brubaker's run on Daredevil. Now, I will be honest, when I was asked, how good is this compared to his Captain America run? I think his Captain America run was better because he had more time to develop the characters, to tell his story. In here, he's wrapping up a storyline, but it feels like the last part is a little bit rushed. So with the introduction of the character of Lady Bullseye, I feel like there was more to her, and they could have done so much more, but it gets wrapped up in just a matter of a couple of issues. By the time it does get wrapped up, there's a huge storyline that it leads into, and that's where the Shadowland story picks up. The Andy Diggle run immediately picks up after this, and it feels like maybe Brubaker was just ready to leave, and he was just wrapping up some loose ends. But at least it does get wrapped up, I will say that. And much like when Bendis left the book, it leaves it open for the next writer to tell the next story with a new status quo for the character of Daredevil. Oh, and this is the Jose Villarrubia colors in this issue right here, 116. Because Matt Hollingsworth does a majority of this. And I'm a big fan of Jose Villarrubia's colors. He's the one that did the colors for the Bernie Wrightson Absolute Swamp Thing book. His colors are just so amazing. And he's been in the game for over 2 decades. Great colorist. And that's all I will say about this book. You can find out exactly how it ends, why the Hand is coming after him, who Lady Bullseye is, who ends up becoming the new Kingpin, or does Wilson Fisk take over being Kingpin again, what ends up happening to Dakota North. Oh, and can I just say, it's so good to see characters like Becky show up again in here. That's why I love Brubaker's run on Daredevil. Now, all the way in the back end, we do a comparison. We do have variant covers, so we have variant covers from Terry Dodson there, the Travel Foreman variant for the Zombie. This is the Wolverine Appreciation cover by Juan Doe. And then Gabriel Del Otto's piece right here from the 500th issue, which is also the art on board. John Romita's pinup, Alex Maleev right there, and David Mack. Patch Searcher. Rafael Grampa. I love that dude's artwork. I know he's not for everybody, but I think it's awesome. Another Alex Maleev piece. Very interested. And then the cover sketches here. Newspaper mock-up from issue 112. And then the pinup inks by Patrick Searcher. And you have some red end sheets. The book has 472 pages. This one printed at the iMac printer. And let's talk about the paper stock, and then we'll do a comparison. So the paper stock is a little thinner than the last book that was printed at the iMac. Was it the Captain America book, I think? So there is a little bit of bleed through when there's light pages, or I'm sorry, light colors or white pages. When you're dealing with Daredevil, most of his stories take place at night, but if you can see like some light colors, you can see some of the borders coming in from the opposite page. And we'll do a comparison to the first printing here. I had to go all the way to the back to kind of show you, because there's not a lot of light colors or white pages throughout the book, but you can kind of see the art and the lettering coming from the opposite side here. Let's do a comparison to the first printing. Alright, so we have the original printing over here on the left-hand side, and the new printing over here on the right-hand side. Looking a little more crimson red right there with the end sheets. And this one here on the left was printed at the Donley printer. The one here on the right was printed at the iMac printer. They both have the same page count. The paper stock on the... Sorry, let's go over here. Paper stock on the Donley printer is a lot thicker than the paper stock in the iMac printer. But as far as the colors and the way the paper stock shows the colors, honestly, they look about the same. I don't see a big difference. Let me go a little bit further in here to that Michael Lark artwork, where you can see maybe just a little bit darker over here in the new printing than over here in the original printing. Now let's talk about the way the books lay over. And the original printing over here that's been read, by the way, at least 5 times, because I've lent it out to some friends too. You do get a little bit of gutter loss, but I mean, you do as well over here in the way that the book lays over. However, it's less of a gutter loss over in the new printing. And that's just basing it on the foot over here that you can see a little bit more of. The sign down here that you have to hold this down more to see. It lays over really nice on both. And now I wanted to come back to this to show the way the light colors and whites look on both of these. This is a better example than this over here, because on the opposite side of this is just this picture right here that has full colors. But over here on the left, you can see just a little bit of bleed through of the panels coming from the last page of the book, of the story rather, and you can see it a lot more prominent over here than over here. But I try to be as thorough as I can with these overviews, so they're definitely more bleed through, and that's because of the paper stock. It's a lot thinner than the Donnelly printer. But it does lay over a little bit better than this over here, even though this one, proper spine and everything, has been stretched out before. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors. BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $200 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count and build, and of course the comparison to the original printing. Let me know in the comments down below if you plan on picking this up, if you already have it, if you have it in trade, and single issues, what you think of this particular run in case you've read it, and what other era of Daredevil you would love to see collected in omnibus format. Go Andersenti. If you have any questions, leave it down below. Don't forget to check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop, amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. That's it, everybody, for us. Or me, I guess. Why did I say us? It's not like I'm Venom. Anyway, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.